growth is one of our core values, not just because we want to grow all the time to do more contracts, but the group that works here, they're all looking for personal growth, professional growth. And sometimes, depending on your age and your season of life, that might, but I need people that want to move forward. They want to push.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Eat, Sleep, and Invest. I'm your host, Brian Driscoll. I'm here with Jeff Nydegger. What's going on, man?
Hey, Brian. What's up, buddy?
Same old. Can't complain, So everyone listening, this is going to be a pretty cool episode. Jeff buys a lot of houses. So, hey, Jeff, why don't you give everybody a little bit of background on what you do and how you got into this space?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, so Jeff Nydegger, I've got a business partner, Kevin Hansen, and we've got a company here outside of the Chicago area called Kendall Partners. You can see on my shirt here. And we just celebrated our 16th year of business, 16th business anniversary. And so we're in our 17th year of business here. And really, we've been buying and selling houses all over in Chicago and the Chicago metro area since 2007. Started off rehabbing, and then this little thing called the market correction and the great crash happened in 2008. And we went into short sales pretty heavy and then did that for a couple of years. And then when the market kind of peaked its head again, we went and bought some houses and started this remodeling business, this rehabbing business, and kind of scaled that over a few years, had a construction manager, had a whole team, assets in the field, vans, warehouses, and did that. And then it wasn't until about maybe 4.5 years ago, I read a little book called Traction. And, that wouldn't have made sense. We were just talking about this. Wouldn't have made sense, a few years prior to that. But we were at a point in our business where Kevin and I needed to figure out who we were and in the business and what the direction we wanted to take was. And that was a real pivotal moment for us. I'm clearly the visionary and Kevin's clearly the integrator. But we decided to go and take our efforts and not be so all over the map. We owned some multifamily buildings that we had sold and took quite a bit of cash out of those and really went deep into this direct-to-seller marketing business. I think I'm a good salesperson, but I'm not a good marketer, and there's a difference. You know what I mean? So we did that and kind of stumbled through it like many do, figuring out where we get the leads and what is a qualified lead. And so in 2019, we made that pivot. And now we're buying about 20 houses a month and looking to go for more. All the while, having 4 kids, trying to hold on to that work-life balance that we all, at least I and our company, we try and hold on to and pay attention to. So that's what we do. We buy direct from seller at scale, and I have some fun doing it.
Yes. Okay. So you've been in this business 17. How old are you?
40.
Like I say, you look pretty young. So 17. So that's what you got into this business like 23.
Yeah, and Sarah and I, my wife and I, just celebrated 21 years of marriage. That's pretty cool. We got married at 19, and I was in the military for right out of high school and was deployed. I spent about 30 months deployed, and then got out and decided not to continue to pursue that. And I always wanted to be into real estate and took a job with a local company that actually my wife's cousin owned. I didn't love it and just had a hard time kind of doing that type of business. Thankfully, that was in 2006 and the market was great, them being in a construction business. And then towards the end of 2006, things started drying up, if you remember back that far. And so I really felt like there was a window here. They were probably going to get rid of me. And before they said that and closed up.
You're saying that was a construction business, right?
Construction business, reconstruction. They were reconstruction of water damage and fire and rebuild things. And this is a great part of the story for some of your listeners, I'm sure. Can relate to this. I saw some of those yellow signs on the side of the road that said they said real estate investor seeks apprentice, right? And I don't call on any of that stuff normally. And I just kept driving by in my work van saying, I'm going to call. I called, listened to the voicemail. They invited me to a meeting. I told my wife, what do you think? Because she's usually got the little better angle on things. And she said, I don't know, what's there to lose? You go sit there for an hour, they try and sell you on something. So I did, and they did. And I come out of there buying this real estate education through a company called Nouveau Riche in 2007. Long story short, got Kevin involved, my now business partner, my wife's cousin. We both ended up leaving the same company we worked for. I left in 2007. I was there for about 9 months, and Kevin left after almost 15 years of being there. And we started this together and didn't know what we were doing. We just had some ambition a little more gung-ho. Kevin's a little more risk-adverse, which is a really good combination for us. He's kind of like the tether to my balloon. I'm always I'm the guy that's got a billion ideas, and there's probably one good one in there. And Kevin's good at pulling that one and then driving it home for us. So
that's crazy. You guys been together that long too. So how much? Hey, do you remember how much that course was, or how much their thing was?
Yeah, I do. And I only know because I'll never forget, number one, because we actually didn't have the cash to pay for it. Sarah and I had some savings, and it was a $25,000 course. And I, coming out of the military, I made about 25 grand a year, maybe 30,000 bucks with combat pay. Anyway, not much. And I remember my wife saying, who's my wife's? My wife is Kevin's cousin, right? So they're very risk adverse. And she said, let's just put on a credit card. We can get 0% back when they gave 0%. And we'll just play that game for a little bit. And we had some cash, but I told her, I said, honey, it's going to work. This is going to work. And she said, I know you can do it. And I said, all I need is a challenge. It's all I've ever needed is somebody to tell me you can't do it. She's always been in my corner and has, kind of been there to, always had confidence in me. And so I went to Kevin and said, hey, we got to do this course. It's 25 grand, 25 grand for him, 25 grand for me.
Oh, so it was 50 G's total.
We did that. We bought a house, our first house out of that, just a little fix and flip. I did 95% of the work. I'm handy enough to do almost everything, which is good and bad. We made $10,000. So we split up $10,000, which obviously wasn't a lot of money, but it kind of was because we did it over about 4 months. We bought another house in 2008 and lost about $55,000 and borrowed that money from family. Kevin looked at me and said, I can't do this. We'll pay the money back. I don't know how, but I have to go get a job. And I said, I can't afford not to do this. So I said, I'm going to figure this out. So we actually borrowed money from family. I called them and said, I'll get you paid back. And they said, I know. Well, I'm not worried about it. And I thought, okay, thank God this man has enough belief in us to, give us enough, flexibility in the terms, if you will, to pay him back over time, which we did. But I got right into short sales and started negotiating debt and sending letters to folks here locally. And they didn't have anything to lose. They were already losing their house and became really, really good. And we did hundreds of short sales and created a really good name for us around here. That was a no money strategy, which I learned from this college, right? And we'd print out a one-page piece of paper for every property we did. The house, the date that we got the lead, the date that we sold, and then the total amount that we made. And we had enough to go around a 11 by 18 room, almost about 4 or 5 feet down on the wall, start at the top. And just as a way to remember the deal. And like I said, we did that, no money, back when you could buy something and negotiate the debt and find a double close buyer to dry fund, simultaneously close, and walk out with a check from, Fidelity Title for 22 grand or 19 grand or whatever. And we did that. And that really was what gave us the confidence of working together and then go back into that, what everybody wants to do is rehab, for the most part. That's where most people start, right? Is either they're going to wholesale or they're going to do some flipping.
Yep. That makes sense. All right. So let me ask you this. And I got some other questions for you here too. But whenever you went to that course and you talked to your wife, what were you thinking when you're like, I know this can work. We're putting 25 grand out here, but I know it's going to happen. Run me through that.
I think like anybody, we're all different, but I wouldn't have done that. We never took on debt or I guess in this case, swiped the credit card or wrote the little, remember they used to have the checks you could write out of your credit card back when they sent you 3 free checks with your Discover card or whatever. We didn't love playing that game just because, I don't know, the Bible says that the borrower is slave to the lender. So we take that pretty serious when we're signing for debt. We wouldn't spend that money any differently than our own. But I knew I was confident that we would go and use this information. We believed enough in the information in the program to pay the amount. And I was not looking for a get rich quick thing. And I think that, for the notes that I sent you, that's really how we approach most things in life. People that know me well, as they know me as the kind of the long range guy, the long range thinker. Not that it's always right, and not that I'm always really good at predicting, but I don't think necessarily about tomorrow. I'm usually thinking down the road. And so I told my wife, Sarah, I said, we're going to make this happen. And she didn't really hesitate. She said, I know. And I took it very serious because we didn't have kids at the time. So decisions back then were a little bit easier before you had, a lot of people to provide for. But We had this vision of her staying home with kids, and we wanted 4 kids, and the Lord blessed us with 4 kids. And so we did that all the while growing our business. And I'm making it sound like it's been easy, and it hasn't, right? There's been a few bad days and lots of good days, but it's not all cupcakes and ding dongs. It's just like there's a lot of hard work. But we got that paid back in the first probably 18 months. Never paid a dime of interest on it. That was my wife's goal the entire time, she worked that around and transferred back, and you could transfer credit card balances to 0%. Yep. She became an expert, and I know that put a lot of stress on her, but it's all worked out, man. But I think that a lot of hard work and us thinking about something, we're building something for the long haul, not just for now. I knew I didn't want to work. I knew I didn't want to work for somebody. I knew I wanted to do it on my own. And if anybody's going to be wrong, it was going to be me. And I'm not looking to point the finger at anybody. I don't mind pointing at myself and say, that was stupid. Let's adjust fire and go back at it again. So we did.
It's funny, too. It's funny how things work out. It's like, boy, you keep driving by that bandit sign. And then one time it's like, hey, you don't let me call the phone number. And now, boom, you've done over 1,000 deals.
Yeah.
Like, that's significant. Most guys in the business do like 1 deal a month, 2 deals a month, things like that. You're talking about doing 20.
Yeah. We went to that college. And then when the market dried up in 2008, and, the banks were out of work and everybody was on the streets, so to speak, and people were losing their homes. I went for some additional training, and Kevin and I flew to Florida, and we're not, he's less opportunistic than I am. He's not seeking these things out. And I said, hey, it's $2,500 to go watch this guy. The guy's name was Jeff Caller. Most people that probably would never remember him or know of him, but he had a short sale course. I looked into it. It was like a short sale mastery. And this is back in 2008 when no one knew what a short sale was yet. Now it's second nature if you're in real estate. But I liked it. I thought this is where the market was heading. And we flew down there, sat in the front row, which Kevin's like a back row guy and I'm a front row guy. That's our different personality. I said, let's go sit in the front because this is serious for me. He was still working at the time, and I was already on my own, working for us, if you will, trying to see if this will work. The guy came up on stage and said, well, good news is we've got 300 of you in the room. Bad news is that 99% of you are going to take this information over 2 days and do nothing with it. He's like, but the 1% are going to kill it. You're going to help a lot of folks out. You're going to buy a lot of houses. You're going to make a lot of money. I looked at Kevin, and this is no joke. I remember it like it was yesterday. We're in Jacksonville, Florida. I looked at Kevin and said, that's us. And I think he looked at me and said, you got your game face on. I said, I don't have a choice. I've already left my job, my career. And I'm not looking to go stick a resume out there and never have. But, so we've been very fortunate with a lot of hard work and, again, not looking for the quick dollar. It's been a lot of heavy lifting, but, and it's never over, right? You never arrive, I guess. We're still lifting a lot today.
Right. And you're right, too, especially in this space. Like, it's not the quick dollar. Everyone out here is like, hey, even the course you went to, and that's like, hey, how to make money or how to do deals without using any of your own money. It's like, it looks sexy and you can do it.
You can.
But it's hard. Like, it is hard. You have to put in work. There's no get rich quick, any of that in this space.
Yep. So we were the 1% that took it and used it and did it, and it really worked out. And it gave us the confidence, which I think is key. I think that's what we're all looking for in whatever we do, right? You normally you do more when you have confidence because you've gotten now some experience, whether that be 1 deal or 20 deals, and you're like, well, I can do that, or I can do that, and I can do that. And so we really wanted to be well-rounded. And there's so many parts of real estate that I don't understand. I'm the first to admit. I'm not one of those guys or one of those leaders for our company that, we don't have 20 different strategies to buy a house. I think we should have more than we have, quite honestly. But I'm the first to admit that we don't do subject to or seller financing, lease options. We've never really done any of that. We actually don't own any single family rentals anymore. We owned a bunch of multifamily properties. We sold them all. So I'm not the expert when it comes to lots of different things. So when I talk with guys like you or other guys in our like collective genius per se, we're listening closely because there are experts in their own little niche. I know how to rehab houses at scale. We were doing, 50 or 60 a year of significant rehab, permitted stuff, Chicago, tons of red tape. And I think that was a pretty good business. It's just we got really drugged down and burned out by the construction. I think guys that have done construction for a long time get to that spot, and that's where we were at. We've pivoted now to this direct to seller model where we're out there buying leads, marketing for leads, using direct mail, using these other tools to to get folks to call us that have a need that we can solve. And we've got a whole team and a whole process around doing that. And we're still not there, right? We're successful at it. We've done good. We've been in the market a long time. We've got great credibility online and everywhere else, but we continue to try and move the needle to continue to be better every, growth is one of our core values. And not just because we want to grow all the time to do more contracts, but the group that works here, they're all looking for personal growth, professional growth. And sometimes, depending on your age and your season of life, that might, but I need people that want to move forward. They want to push,
So you're going direct to seller, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your dispatch? Like, run me through your process. You find a property, and then how's your process work?
Well, it's changed a little bit because of, we're sitting here in the third quarter of 2023. We're in a market where there's just no inventory, right? So one of the things I think that at least at our scale of business, I think it's smart to do it at even a smaller scale, but we're watching the market. We're not always trying to provide the exact same product to every market, if that makes sense. We're watching it pretty close. So to answer your question, when a lead comes in and we end up buying this seller's house, we really have a pretty simple process from there. We determine as a team, or my sales team determines, we've got an asset management group that we have in the company that looks at the deal and says, we think that this house is going to be great to find an investor and immediately close. So we'll buy the house, today from Ant County and, sell it to Brian same day at a higher price. We'll negotiate a deal and buy, sell. So we'll fund the deal, close, hold up our end of the bargain per our contract with the seller. They're out, they're happy, they're fine. And an hour later have our negotiated deal with Brian where he comes in and buys the house. That's one way, double close, which is.
Why you close it? Why you double closing versus, is it because the spread's too big?
The spreads are I think, something that we would want to protect and not have to disclose on a single HUD or a single settlement statement. So that is purely a choice. There's really no, and I'm a fairly good guy with math, so I can do the economics behind saving a couple, $2 or $3 grand, at least in our state of Illinois. There's a lot of costs involved to buy and sell, right? You got double transaction costs, and we pay the seller's closing costs. So we could push that on to you in this case if you were the buyer. But we decide to go ahead and clean up our end and buy the house. And part of it, honestly, Brian, is because when we came to the market in 2019 and really wanted to come and make a splash in the direct seller space and be a solution for home sellers to sell their house right to a cash buyer, we wanted to come out and say, we're not a wholesaler. We're in a big market. There's a lot of wholesalers, and some of them are really good business people, and most of them are not. And it's like that everywhere in the country. You're going to get your top, maybe even 10%, not 20%, that are really good, and your bottom 80 or 90% are really the ones that make the industry look poor because they're locking up contracts and they're not fulfilling them because they don't care. It's a transaction. They couldn't find a buyer, and so they're not buying it because they never were a buyer. They actually don't buy houses. They're a transaction engineer. Totally fine. I love the business model. If you can do it and do it right by the seller, then I think it's fine. We wanted to come out and say, you know what, we're not that. We're not fishing for a buyer. Our purchase is not contingent on the sale. And so we can look someone in the eyes and actually fulfill that obligation. Because it's funny, in 4 years' time, and maybe you've seen this in your market, in 4 years' time, we actually hear from sellers now that ask us outright on the phone, are you a wholesaler? Now, if our current avatar is a 70-year-old lady, how is it possible that in this day and age she knows what a wholesaler is if she hasn't sold her house in 40 years? It's because she's talked to three other buyers, and they're the ones that have they've done their homework, and whether they've disclosed it or not, or they've been under contract with a buyer and it fell apart. So now they're asking us, are you going to wholesale my house? And we can look at them and say, we're going to fulfill our obligation. We're actually going to fund the deal with cash. It's our own money. It's not contingent on financing. We buy it as is. We'll clean your house out. You pick the date. It's easy. It's hassle-free. So that is the long answer to that question by saying we could dry fund. We could flip the contract and just do an actual assignment. We've chosen not to. The spreads are large enough where I don't need someone to see on our end that, we're buying something for $120,000 and then immediately reselling it for $170,000. So we protect that. So I guess that's the cost of doing business. But believe me, when I see $3,000 of extra cost over maybe 200 deals, I can do the math.
Yeah, and you know what? It makes sense too because it's way cleaner because you don't have to worry about the guy you're selling it to bailing on you the day before closing. You're like, oh crap, we don't have the money. What are we going to do?
That's
Then you
right.
have to go back to the original seller and negotiate and all that stuff. You're able to just it doesn't matter.
I've actually of the probably 1,000 deals we've done, I've never signed a contract. So some people that hear that have done this for a long time or do it now might say, well, that's stupid. You're leaving a lot of money on the table, I guess is the phrase. I'm okay with that. I think our operation is scalable. There is a cost to doing that, or a savings, I guess, to doing it the other way. So if we don't double close, which is the one strategy, if we don't double close, we will go ahead and buy the house just as we normally would, but we're going to buy it, probably do a light cleanup and remodel, and then put it back on the market. We really are only doing a lot of times the life safety stuff because we're selling to a finance buyer. Oftentimes, we're going to have to make the house loanable.
So not like a flip, more like I think they call it like a wholesale.
It'd be like a wholesale. So we might, anymore, we don't really like remodel kitchens and bathrooms. We're going to put fresh surfaces on. So carpet and paint goes a long way. And then we're going to sell the value, right? So we're not going to go for the top of the market unless it demands that or there's just no inventory. But I think we're looking at both. We're looking at the house that we have and the condition it's in and where the market's at. And we're matching those up because even in this market today, you don't have to do much to a house to get full value for it. I mean, whatever that might be, full value, because there's no other inventory. So even at 7% rates anymore, people that go to Home Depot and do their own remodel. So as long as it's loanable and it'll pass a conventional appraisal and inspection, that's about the extent that we go. And then some we really don't do anything to. We'll actually clean it out as a standard just to sell a cleaned out house. Again, we'll have a contractor run through and make sure everything's tightened up and there's no outlets hanging out of the wall. I don't want someone getting hurt because it's our liability. And then we'll put it on the market. That could be $2,000 and 24 hours later, back on the market at a higher price. So that's the two ways currently we dispo.
And that makes sense. So and you're right. Whatever works, works. Like it works for you, scaled. It's like, why do anything else unless you find something else that can add on to that, you know?
Right.
Let me ask you this, a little bit different topic. So working with your business partner, you guys have been together a long time and your family.
Yeah.
How do those dynamics work? And you got any tips for people with partners?
When we talked about doing this together, that is the one thing I really want to push on a little bit. I want to encourage others to, well, I want to identify that Kevin Hansen and myself have something special together. It's not all about us, but I believe it's because, we work hard. We do love each other like brothers. We make a joke in the office that he's my business wife. And, if you look over the past 16 years, you could add up the hours and say that I've probably spent more time with him during the day than I have with anybody else, right? That would just make sense. So I think early on, and I don't think we necessarily had this discussion exactly, but early on throughout our working together, we've always trusted each other. So if Kevin was standing right here next to me, he would say the same thing and say that there's never been a lack of integrity, which happens to be a core value of ours. I don't think that a relationship lasts without integrity. I think it can last for very, very short time if you lack integrity. But because it's built on trust, then we have the same beliefs, we have the same core values. We raise our children in a very similar manner. I think we're looking to go in the same direction in life. We're of similar age. Kevin's a few years older than I am. And I'm explaining that because I think if Kevin was 20 years older, it might change the dynamic. Earlier in the years in business when we were, I don't want to say struggling to, pay ourselves, but there were some years where it was pretty thin. And we had to look at each other and say, this means more to us than shutting it down now. We believe in it so much now. If you ask our wives that, they might say, hey, 6 months with no paycheck while you guys are growing was difficult. But we've been good stewards of what we've been provided with. And I think it's that we can go ahead and have a conversation and it be heated for 20 minutes. He have an opposing view and I have an opposing view, and us come out of the room 20 minutes later, high-fiving and hugging and say, hey, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be honest and say we've never left a conversation, really never left a conversation where, are we working together tomorrow or not? There was never that concern. We have had conversations where it's been, we've been in disagreement, but because it's built on trust and love, right? He's my family, he's my wife's family, and I'm going to see him either at church or at the ball game or, whatever. We office together, right? So we got a pocket door between our office. We enjoy each other's company, travel together. So I think the secret, if you will, is finding the person that you are equally yoked with, establishing the rules of engagement, the trust, and he knows that I've got his back and I know he's got mine. So when times are tough, I think that's when it's really tested. I think that's when you're really refined in your relationship. When it's good, it's all rainbows and ho-hos, but when it's bad, it's like when there's no money or the stress is high or the expenses are high, et cetera. And we've been there. It really tests the mettle of the relationship. I've never had to doubt Kevin's judgment. I back his decisions. He backs mine. And they might be wrong decisions, right? But I trust that in my absence, he would make the right one because he's not looking out for just himself. He's looking out for everybody. So it's a selflessness component to that.
Yeah, and that's pretty big too. Like if each other's looking out for the other's best interest also makes a difference. Have you ever done predictive index?
Yes.
What's your PI?
We run the entire company off of PI, predictive index. Okay. I'm a Maverick.
And what's he?
Well, it was craftsman. Now it's artisan. And I love to tell him he's an artisan, which he absolutely hates. But right. So if you put our PIs on the relationship guide, you can do a one-on-one ratio. It shows exactly what it shows. And it's like 99% accurate. It shows how I make decisions. I'm pretty assertive. I guess he'd call me the hammer. And I guess let me back up a second. What I wanted to recommend, if anyone's listening to this about relationships and partnerships, is it's not that we haven't ever disagreed. And we've also had hard conversations. I don't avoid hard conversations. I have no trouble raising my hand and said I was an idiot and I messed up. I think that's another core value of ours, humility. I think that's part of it. But I never avoid ripping the Band-Aid off. I think there's a time and a place for that. I don't mean in the moment is maybe not, you got to discern a little bit. But I want to be clear with everyone that I think just as if you're at home with your spouse or your best friend or whatever, I think if it's built on trust, then you should be able to have those difficult conversations. If you read Patrick Lencioni or anything by him and his 5 dysfunctions of a team, it's all built on trust, right? If that's established, then you can go really, really deep, really, really fast. And to me, all relationships personally are built on the speed of trust. The quicker we get to knowing each other and knowing that you've got my back and not going to judge me and we're thinking about doing something together and again, thinking about the long term, then you can say what you need to say and not feel like it's going to be used against you. Nobody wants that.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So he's family. Now you have your 4 kids and your wife also. Like, how do you balance? Like running a business takes a lot of time, especially like back in the day. You were probably pulling, like I used to pull 16-hour days, 18-hour days.
Oh, yeah.
Like you do what you do. So now you're got over the hump. You guys are actually making money now. Like at some point it started and you're good. How do you balance life? Because I know some people like me, I got a problem not working. I just enjoy it. It's like, run me through that.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the work-life balance phrase, I guess, if you will, has become cliche because it's overly used now. Or I think if you back up 20 or 30 years, I shouldn't say everyone, most people were seeking that, but it wasn't said the way it's said now. And I only say that not to answer your question, not directly, but when we go apply and have people apply for positions here, it's interesting the flavor of when we ask what's most important to you, it's one of our leading questions because I do want to know. They'll say work-life balance, which is fine. They don't know us yet, but that's more often than not the answer. And so we kind of joke about that because who isn't looking for more life, less work balance, normally, high pay, less work, that type of thing. But I think to answer your question, Brian, I haven't been a perfect model of that. I think I've done a pretty good job. I think that, again, going back to the trust factor, my wife and I, 21 years, we've done a pretty good job of having an open conversation around time, about being intentional with time. I think she would describe me as a man that tries to be very intentional with our time and our relationships. Again, thinking about what's left at the end of the workday, the end of your work career, at the end of your life. Maybe you've got stacks of money, maybe you know a ton of people, but the few core relationships you have, I'm guessing, in my opinion, are going to mean the most to you. So again, not saying I'm the best at it, but I really try and view it as just that. Same with my kids. I want to show them that you can be an entrepreneur and kind of be the captain of your own ship, I guess, if you will, and run your own business. Doesn't matter what it is, and still maintain the time. I'm like you, Brian. I love to work. Kevin loves to work. We love what we do. I think because it gives us that joy of, for me, it's solving problems. I actually work better under pressure. So when things aren't that good, I actually really rise up. That's just a maverick profile. And that's just really, I kind of put my head down and run right into it.
I can relate to that too. I'm the same way. It's like if you're in a corner and there's a lot of pressure, that's where I'm the calmest and can make decisions and like get stuff done.
Kevin would say, and my wife Sarah would say the same thing. When Jeff gets quiet, you got to watch out. And I don't think that's not to make me sound like I'm something special. Just I guess subconsciously I do get like, okay, this is where everyone kind of backs up and where I need to go forward. So work-life balance. I've coached the kids in their sports. I'm involved in our church. I try and maintain a good, let's be honest, I'm 40, but I still like to fish. I like to work out. I like to play basketball. We like to travel a lot. So how do you do all that and have a successful business that provides for you and allows you the time to, let's be honest, for me personally, and everyone's goal is different. As we grow, I'm not looking to be more involved. And I've made that clear. I'm looking to be less involved, and I'm looking to involve more quality people. And so as we hire and train now, they know that I'm not probably the one to train you anymore. I don't mind paying people fairly and showing them a really good way to be successful financially. But we do attract who we are, right? So the people that work here with us, from ops manager Glenn, who you know, I say all the way down. I don't like to use that analogy, but really all the way down to everyone, down to the guys in the field or the guys checking our houses. They're all full-time employees, W-2. They're all looking for a very similar formula, to success. Nobody here really wants to work 80 hours a week. And, so we're watching that pretty closely. But you're right. I've had some years where it was like 12-hour days, and then the kids go to bed, and then you get back after it again. The good part is my office is about 2 minutes from my house. The bad part is my office is 2 minutes from my house. I don't office from home. I couldn't do it. It's too much. It's like, it's chaos at home, or at least it was when the kids were little. But I can just run back up and work until midnight. And I could have some pretty good success. And it was necessary at the time. It's just necessary to get out of the day-to-day and get some of this lifting done at night. But we weren't afraid of that. And Kevin's not. And that's, again, why Kevin and I work well together, because he has no trouble working. His work ethic is super strong. And I'm attracted to that. And so is he. So, but it's intentional. So we book it. Kevin and I are very clear with each other about how many vacation days we're going to take. He knows that I'm going to err on taking quite a bit more. He just knows. There's no secret about that. So when we talk about growth, Brian, when we talk about growing and building our business, I'm always filtering it through how it's going to affect my family. I have to. My wife won't say it until she needs to say it. And then she's like, it's too much. She can just tell where I'm at home, but I'm just I'm just sitting there, because she knows I'm either somewhere else or just exhausted, and she doesn't like either.
Yeah, and you're right too. Yeah, it's not necessarily even being at the office. It's where your brain is at home.
100%. And my wife's pretty good about saying, where are you at right now? I'm like, all right.
Yeah, I'm calculating costs for the next deal.
Yeah, that's right. When I come home, I try and be good about putting my phone down. I don't follow around the house. I don't use it with me at the house. And I tried to do it when the kids were little. Now they're older. I've got teenagers, but I want them to know that they're important to me. Again, this is my own personal thought. Kevin's very similar to that, where we're going to spend the time because they're going to be gone, right?
Right.
I've built a business that I feel can last after the kids are gone. I probably got 7 years left of kids at home, and then they're probably gone and going to be independent mavericks like me. And I'm hoping to still have the business, right? So I can go back in and work 60 hours then if I want to. I won't. But right. I'm just, again, going back to the long-term, long-range thinking, it's how do you get what you need now while building what you want in the future? And I think that's that balance, right, of both. And it's not easy. It's a tightrope. Your life and your work are like this.
Yeah, it is tough too. It's like, and everyone in business is going to deal with it. Like early years, you got to hustle more. And then you have to find out what works for you,
Yep, exactly.
Cool, man. Hey, well, this was great. Let me ask you one last question. What's your top book that you'd recommend?
Oof. I think anything, I already mentioned his name, Patrick Lencioni. He's a storyteller. And I say that because his books are very easy to read. I'm just a kid from Iowa, so I don't have an MBA. I didn't go to college. I went right in the military, and I only say that to say I was never a scholar. It takes me, a while to read. I listen a lot, but having that growth mindset and having that be a core value of ours, that we are lifelong learners, some at different levels than others. But I just think we're always trying to pursue excellence, whatever that means to the individual. So anything by Patrick Lencioni, being a Christian man, I feel like the Bible's something that you can dig into, a hard book to read if you just pick it off the shelf. A lot of helpful devotionals and things like that. Anything by John Maxwell. I've got his book right here. It's probably my favorite. So it's the Maxwell Leadership Bible. And the reason I like it is because it tells you about all these great, strong leaders throughout the Bible, and it boils it down to maybe more of a businessman's sense as to how they led through some of the hardest times ever. So Patrick Lencioni and John Maxwell. Where else? I think Jim Collins. I mean, if you're in business and you haven't read Good to Great or Built to Last, or what's the other one that he wrote? It was Great by Choice, I think. These types of things. So I think these books are pretty foundational. I told you before the call, I'm reading Scaling Up again, Vern Harnish.
Right. Yeah, like you were saying before too, it's like you can read a book 3 years ago and you read it today and it means something totally different to you.
I try and make a note of that, and I'm maybe this is nerdy, but when that occurs, because it does, I try and consciously make a note of it, and I actually send myself an email, and then because we run everything on Google Suite, I'll snooze the email for even a year or 2 years, and I'll make a quick note to myself. And then that email will resend to me. Let's just say I do one for today, and I'll kick it out until 2025. It'll send me that email, and I'll put a quick note in there and say, I'm sending this to myself because I wasn't ready to read this book, and yeah, I should pick it up again. I just got one actually from a Donald Miller book, the story branding, building your story brand, just as a reminder to read it again. And I'm like, it's funny if you read the same book again, you'll pick up a whole different thing because your perspective's different. You're a different person or a different business leader or a different husband or whatever now than you were. And that's why books, they shouldn't just sit on the shelf. You got to pick them back up.
Right. That's a good idea too. Yeah. Shoot yourself an email a year in the future. And yeah, because you can schedule on Google or anything.
I send it and I just do it. And sometimes I do it weekly, monthly, yearly. And I'm like, what? Why did I? So now I got in the habit of just typing myself a quick email, and I'm pretty blunt with myself. I just say, Jeff, you didn't understand this book. You weren't ready for it, but you should read it in 2023. And I'll just write 3 or 4 notes as to what I collected from it today. And it's a 30-second email, right? You're not putting a ton of effort in. Snoozing it, I put the book on the shelf with the intention of saying, you should check it out. You should use it. I'm not going to read it, but I need it back in 2 years when it comes time. And they're like, what are you talking about?
That's cool, man. Hey, so let me ask you this. What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, cool. So again, we're in the Chicagoland market. So we're all over the Chicago area, Chicago and the metro area. You can go to our website, which is on my shirt, KendallPartnersLTD.com. We've also got a TV brand or a PPC brand that's online for some of our marketing. That is JeffBuysYourHouse.com. So those are kind of the top of the funnel. You can always email me, Jeff@KendallPartnersLTD.com. Those are the best ways. I'm on Facebook. There's not a lot of Jeff Nydeggers out there, I don't think. Not that look like me, I don't think. There might be some in Utah, but I'm in Illinois. So those are the best ways. Love to chat. If I can help somebody along in their journey or share some information, I'm always looking to learn. So if you get some feedback, come on, bring it.
Now, a question for you too before we go. Are you also, obviously you're looking for anyone in the Chicago area that wants to sell their house, but are you also looking for other people that want to invest in real estate? Like I know a lot of doctors, things like that, want to get into the game, don't have the time to learn the business, but want to partner up. Are you looking to meet people like that as well?
Currently where we're at with buying so many properties, 50, 60 properties, at a time that we've got under contract, it takes a lot of cash, right? Because of what I said, we actually close on everything. So we've got a lot of money tied up. So we've actually provided a few different, let's call them private money lenders. I wouldn't call them investors, but for our purposes, private money lenders since 2010. Kevin and I were just talking about it this morning. We've actually used a few of them since 2010 consistently, and they've been anywhere from 8 to 10, maybe 12% case by case, but annualized return. And I've seen their IRAs and things go up from, $300,000 and $400,000 to ones at 1.8 million now, which great for them. It's been easy for us because they don't really need to know about the deal. They just are trusting in us and our ethics and et cetera. So yes, we would love to talk to people that would love to invest locally, case by case basis or on the long term. And then also if there's an investor, rehabber, fix and flipper, landlord in our area, we know a lot of them and probably most of them. But if you're in the Chicago metro area and you want to buy a house, we've got a whole dispositions platform that you can plug into, see our inventory. And then if you find one, you can say, oh, I like that one. I'd like to buy it. And we'd love to partner with you. And again, we're thinking about it not on a one-off basis, but if we do business, we're already thinking about doing the first deal and then doing the next and hopefully doing 20 together. So that's how we like to evaluate that.
That's good stuff. So anybody listening, we'll have Jeff's websites in the show notes. Feel free to reach out. Hey, Jeff, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you, man.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome, man. Hey, and go Steelers. If you don't see that Steelers helmet in the back, you're missing out. We need to zoom in on that.
Right. Yeah. Right back. Right there.
Come on. It's going to be a good year. I'm feeling good about it. Yeah,
we'll see. I hope so, too. All right, man. Hey, thanks. Yeah, we'll talk soon. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Brian. Take care.
Hey, and thanks, everyone, for listening. Hey, anyone, if you guys need leads also, you always know, check out motivatedleads.com. We appreciate you. Get out there, crush it, close some deals. We'll see you next time.